Okay, we'll start the last session of the morning. And we invite Fernando de Souza from Brazil to join us. Hello, Fernando. Nice to meet you. Fernando is a sanitary and environmental engineer, postdoc researcher at the Sanitary and Environmental Engineering Department of Universidad Federal de Santa Catarina. He's a member of the Water Technologies Research Group, focusing on solutions for small communities and decentralized sanitation. Well, thank you, Fernando, for your presentation.
Thank you. So thank you for the presentation. I'm Fernando. I'm here representing my team in Brazil at Universidade Federal de Santa Catarina. We are supervised by Professor Mauricio Luiz Sens. It's not here. And I will present you an innovative approach for water safety planning and a case study of governmental, university, and small municipalities collaboration. So I will try partnerships and the return of experiences and the conclusions on that experiences of a project that we have entitled Development of Water Safety Plans for Water Supply System in the Urban Environment in 17 municipalities in Santa Catarina, Brazil, PSISC. We are developing 17 water safety plans, actually for 18 small municipalities. It turns out that one water supply system covered 2 different municipalities, so that number increased a little. And these small municipalities covers from 750 to almost 50,000 inhabitants. Our start date was December 21, and we intend to end December 2024. So the Brazilian Ministry of Health has the methodology for water safety planning. However, and it proposes as a tool. However, in Santa Catarina state, water safety plans are mandatory since 2018. So water suppliers are responsible for that. And Brazilian National Health Foundation has supported small municipalities on sanitation and health development. And they had this idea of supporting a university on doing those plans. So FUNASA is our funder, and they proposed the execution of the project by a university, the Universidade Federal de Santa Catarina. And small municipalities, they are responsible for information and participation in our workshops. So we are responsible to develop those plans with their help. So we have this interaction where we use our knowledge on studying the methodology of water safety plans and providing the documentation, and they provide us their in-field information and data. And so our project has 7 goals, but basically that follows the water safety plans methodology proposed by World Health Organization and International Water Association. And we adapt to our reality. So we're spread in our territory. Our team is in Florianópolis, in the coast, and the other municipalities are spread in the Santa Catarina state territory. So we had to overcome that distance with some different tools. So we've been doing workshops, online and in-person workshops. We've been using online documenting tools such as Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Drive, and in forms of forms or tables that we answer together and then we discussed in our workshops and use that in our documentation. We also did technical visits, and we're in constant communication by email calls, WhatsApp, and video calls in the development of the project. So we have this interaction for all the methodology of water safety planning. So our first step was the team assembling. After FUNASA, we have assembled a team at the university. We have researchers, graduate and postgraduate students. And then we have 17 different teams at the water supply companies with managers, staff, and some stakeholders in some cases. This is our first workshop with mayors and managers of water supply systems at FUNASA and health surveillance. And we started with the system assessment. First with the system description, so we came from some preliminary forms and flow charts to a more developed, after works, visits and interviews with more developed reports and maps showing the watersheds, the risk areas, and soil use, and our flow charts with system description and water treatment plan description. And we did our risk assessment as well. We starting with hazard identification and then control measures identification and improvement planning. We did that with pre-prepared tables with some risks that we identified in our visit. And we work all together in days of workshops in identifying, discussing each hazard and evaluating the risk based on the matrix with likelihood and severity for each one. And here we couldn't separate the discussion with hazard and control measures identification. People were eager to, since they identified their hazard, they wanted to show us their control measures, or want to know from us what they could do to control those measures. So we to have to integrate those discussions. And the improvement planning we did altogether straightforward. So we've been using the same interactions to develop the monitoring improvement, the management and communication procedures and supporting programs, and the review and improvement for these water safety plans that we're making together right now. So what did we learn so far? I highlight some things that was very important in this project. First one is the team interactions. We had significant team interactions over almost 3 years right now. We have 17 different teams, 18 if you count with our team. It's challenging to manage because there's a lot of people. There's over 90 people that we work. But however, 17 different teams, it very enriches our project as well. People have different background, they have different interests and pains. They have different level of commitment, not with the supply system, because they are all very committed with their supply system, but with the methodology that we've been applying. So we kind of have to face some of these differences. And they have different schedules as well that they have to manage all the time. So these are our pros and cons working together. But this diversity is very important because we can use different experiences and exchange experience between teams. Also, remote and online tools were very important to overcome those distance. And since we have this geographical distance, and we started with COVID restrictions as well, so we had to start it with some more online things. However, that helped us because people were very used to those tools already because of COVID. So it was not difficult. We did not have difficulties on that. Online workshops are very essential because we previewed to make a few workshops, but we realized that we needed more workshops. And since online workshops has low cost, because we gather together with mostly no cost, we could do more workshops that we previewed at the beginning. And this remote tools were very essential for communication and training purposes. So talking about workshops facilitate communication and training. Our first workshop was in person, so we could meet people and launch the project and the sensibilization and motivation of mayor and water supply system managers. We also invited our health surveillance, and FUNASA was with us at the time. And we work in two different kind of workshops. Sometimes we do some individual workshops with the entire team when we focus on the discussions of their water supply system or their information. And sometimes we bring an information that we discuss with all the teams together or some specific people in those teams. I didn't mean to rush that like that. So the last thing is our visit, our technical visit. If that. Maybe if I, yeah. This one? Yeah. The last thing is our technical visit that was also very important. We visit each water supply system component from each water supply. So we visit all the 17, everything that we could, and the watershed. And it was essential for the supply, the system comprehension for both teams, because even in their teams they had people, we didn't know the system as a system. They only know the part that they've been working on, but they didn't know the whole system and the watershed. So this was very important for both teams, for system knowledge, because we all had at a point a basic knowledge for the system, and for personal interaction, because we spent time together. We spent a lot of time together doing those visits. So people started to trust more in our project, on us, and the interactions that we've been having before. So the visits were followed by a risk assessment workshop, so we could discuss straightforward the risks and the hazards that we've been identifying on that visit. So we could revisit some discussions that we had on the visit and discuss it together, and later in a more complex situation. And to conclude, thank you. It was very important that FUNASA came with this collaboration. It was the first impulse for the development of water supply systems. The funding was important, and the participation of the municipalities were fundamental as well for the project's success. So it was like the drawing that I showed before. It is an interaction. Everyone is important. And comparing it with other systems in the same consortiums that we've been working, other municipalities didn't start their plans. So this was very important, this initiative. Methodology and approach, we think that the tools that we brought was effective on identifying hazard and implementing control measures, but we still have to fill some gaps on our discussion and how we will manage when the project ends, because we are very close right now, but we have our time to leave. And the workshops facilitate communication and to learn and understand the different local realities. We also can see already some results and impact. Since we will be visiting, people were already trying to improve some things because we're like a visit coming in their houses, so they wanted us to see good things. And because of those discussions, some of the teams are already implementing the control measures that we identified for improvement. And just to end, we still have some challenges. We could overcome those challenges of geographical distance by the remote support, but in some cases, we believe that we have to continue with different collaborations, so we're trying to work on that for further collaborations with especially the smallest municipalities. And our future perspectives are the expansion for other municipalities with the same reality, and the exchange of experience and continuous learning among the teams were very essential for long-term success. So we believe that our closer discussion will guarantee that they continue to working on their water safety plans. I have to say thanks to FUNASA, CISAM Sul and CISAM Meio Oeste, local teams and our UFSC teams and CAPES for this work. And I will be glad to answer any question about the project. And I give you my contact information, Mauricio, and our team email. Thank you.
Hi, Fernando. Thank you for the presentation. I'd like to know why you focused on the urban areas, because once the municipalities are small, as you said, I thought that would be good if you could have done it in the whole area. First question. And the second one is, how did you choose these 17 municipalities?
Okay. So I believe that FUNASA came with that proposal because this is a group of projects. We were the first, and I believe they wanted to start with in the easiest way, maybe. So they chose urban areas because some of these systems cover rural areas in part, but they are mostly in urban areas. And what was the second question? So we have the consortiums, and they manage, because the consortium works, they manage different municipalities, so they work together to have better. These consortiums, they kind of do the same work that we do right now. They help those municipalities have better prices on products, and so they buy all together. Sometimes they give some technical support as well, some laboratory support, so they work together. And this consortium were already sponsored by FUNASA as well, so they are very close relationships, and we could count on them on helping us to choose those municipalities. So they did an open call. The 17 municipalities, they manifest they wanted to participate, and they fill those characteristics, and then we chose them to participate.
Further questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
now we'll have Alejandro Iriburo. Alejandro is a civil engineer, hydraulic and environmental profile, with over 25 years of experience in the treatment and management of drinking water. Alejandro is actually Drinking Water Assistant Manager in Obras Sanitarias del Estado, OCE, that is Uruguay's national water supply and sanitation company. Since 2012, he has coordinated the water safety plans at OCE, supporting the supply system staff for the design, development, and implementation of water safety plans. Thank you, Alejandro.
Hola, Señora Julieta. Hello, I will speak in Spanish.
Okay, I just wanted to say hi to everybody. Thank you for being here today. And the idea of this presentation is to go through the experience OCE had with regards to water safety plans. Specifically, in this presentation, we have some colleagues. I'm seeing some of you here, Amalia, Sofia. So we'll be here to answer your questions at the end. But for those of you who are not part of Uruguay, it has already been presented, but you need to take into account the population that we have, the surface, our location. This is something that we already discussed. The amount of supply companies that this organization is in charge of. This is the only company in the world that is in charge of all the water supply systems. Also, the size of the systems. 90% of our systems have less than 5,000 inhabitants, and 50% of them have less than 100 inhabitants. So with regards to management, this is a huge challenge for us, and also with regards to the implementation of water safety plans. Also, some of the colleagues that have created this work with me can confirm that we have a lot of technical leaders that are leaders of different water safety plan groups. And so, for those of you who do not know our situation in our country, we have different institutions involved in water management. From the executive collaborates and is responsible of our regulations and control of water sanitation sector. Also the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Public Health, the regulator, which is part of this conference and has already done some presentations, the Ministry of Livestock, Agriculture and Fisheries. We've seen some presentations about the perspective and the role of the Ministry of Livestock, Agriculture and Fishery with regards to soil management. Also, department governments. The concept of a department government is the division of our country. We have 19 departments, 19 divisions, and there's a lot of influence with regards to land management, territory management, and the internal aspects of the end of the plan. So we have three very clear stages, three phases. And the first phase is a study phase where we learned more about the methodology. This started between 2006 and 2011. We worked with all the documents available back then, with all the guidelines of WHO, other publications, and we tried to learn about ISO and HAS. And that was the only documents we had available back then. We also read all the guidelines of WHO, Bond's letter, and there are a couple of documents and a manual which was developed in Portugal. And that document, which was mentioned by Thomas earlier today, from Tecno, from where we took a lot of ideas on how to develop our initial risk management. In 2012, we had a workshop, a consultancy with Vieira Moraes, who came from Portugal to have this first meeting with them. And we started designing our strategy as a company for expanding plans throughout the country. First, we launched our first pilot. We have the country with its divisions, and this is also reflected within the organization of our company. We had a national support committee, then a technical secretariat, departmental work teams, local work teams, and specific work groups. This is how we divided and organized the work. After the first phase where we learned, we started our second phase, which was more about voluntary implementation. So back then we had no regulation, but we started working on the implementation of the plans in the bigger departments, in the biggest municipalities. And so back in 2017, we had our program, the program which was done by the Ministry of Environment, and this included a plan which was directed towards the company and had an objective of the amount of plants. Then we started our third phase, which is mandatory implementation. In 2018, the regulator established regulations and also determined certain objectives, one of them being that by 2030 all systems needed to have a water safety plan, and that by next year 60% of the companies should already have a plan in place. So out of the 560 systems that we have, those who are here in this map are those who already have superficial treatments. So this is a very good distribution in the country. And for this, to be able to do this type of work, we had to develop some supporting tools. So we developed a strategy where we had central areas, and central areas support local teams. And also we use other managements of the company to develop supporting programs that will provide support for local communities and will allow us to have information of all the operational systems from those systems. So for all these plants, we have a lot of operators working there on site. So what we wanted to do is provide more value to the information that they themselves generated. That's why we developed these tools. And on that screen, you can see a scheme of the plant where the operator can upload information. So, within the same basin, all operators can exchange information so that they can understand what was going on a site and take decisions according to their other results. So here you can see a basin where they can also issue certain warnings where there was a problem with raw water that might demand a different treatment plan. As Fernando was also saying, we had other tools such as training programs for the personnel and staff. That also includes a lot of different training actions, courses, workshops, and specifically around water safety plans that started in 2015. We had at least 2 annual editions of these training programs where all the work groups come to Montevideo to work on methodology and create a final work that will help their final system. Apart from those courses, we also had workshops. We conduct a workshop once a year with supervisors from the whole country. And also, we started, as was shared in different presentations earlier yesterday and today, after COVID-19, we started implementing working through conference platform meetings, having virtual meetings. Also, we worked on the preparation of general local documents and shared repository. We wanted to include all the different documents of a plan, such as the risk matrix, management files, and to try to have a uniform method that includes all information and that has a very similar system so that everybody can share this information. This is kind of the strategy that we were looking for. Once the regulation was approved, the company had the responsibility to create a schedule throughout the years. So this is what happened in 2018, the first year of the implementation of the regulation, up to 2023, with the number of systems. Now we have 256, and the number of people associated to those systems that already have safety plans. That also increased a lot because regulator suggested that smaller plans were done first. So here we have 2 million people who had safety plans, and now we have around 1 million. And so here we can see this in the plan. We had 12 systems in the first year, the second year 13. In 2020 we had 13 systems. In 2021, 2022, due to COVID-19, the number decreased a lot, but in 2022 we had a big jump, which we can appreciate in the graph, and we had around 76 new systems. And finally, in 2023, we included 37 more. In 2020, 21, 22, and 23, we had some issues. In 2021, we had COVID. In 2023, we had the big droughts. So that's the distribution at a national level of the total amount of implemented plans. So as you can see, there's a good distribution, and we have a great efforts done by all the technical groups, the staff of the different systems. So, in conclusion, here we have an image of a couple of years back of one of the first on-site workshops we conducted about this. We have gone through a lot. A lot of the participants of this conference have shared their experiences, and they all say the same. It's a very long road. We have a main objective, which is to have good implementation. But once regulation is implemented, the step is enormous, and that is a very important change. Now we are trying to take this to everywhere in the country. Also, it's very important to have work of the local and departmental teams. Here we have a lot of colleagues today who are working on this, and they have developed a lot of different changes, not only in the management of documentation, but also in how this is going through the whole country. We know that all the work teams are essential to face this challenge. Also, the management of the operational monitoring constitutes an important challenge because we are constantly paying attention to all the recommendations of the WHO, both the manual uploading of information but also automatic incorporation of information. Another big challenge, which is something that the regulator mentioned earlier, is the fact that the companies had to conduct internal audits. Regulation demands this, and we now need to consider that once we start implementing plans, we need to have audits, and that means we need more staff, more hours dedicated to this. And this also gives great feedback. Another very important aspect is that the regulator also conducts external audits. This is done by the regulator. So finally, we were introducing the second version of this manual, and this had also the inclusion of climate change effects, aspects related to equality in the access to water, but also once you're able to read the second edition of the manual, which is very easy to read, and I believe it's extremely important and interesting, is that we need to keep moving forward. This is essential for the plans. Everybody who presented here said the same. We need to keep moving forward. Plans are not done to keep on a drawer. No, they are done to be implemented. We know this is a very big challenge. It's a big challenge for us as a company. It's a big challenge for us as a country. But we understand that we can move forward. The fact that we work in this with an approach, the approach established by WHO and IWA, is a good road. And it's a road that we need to transit together. And once we ask ourselves which are some challenges, COVID is a challenge, droughts are challenges, floods are challenges, but also the management of these plants have a lot of other challenges. Philip said that it is very important to think about the raw risk, and we need to understand this information and what is our residual risk, because that will determine that if we maintain what we have in the middle, our investment, our maintenance, to having a lot of resources is also key. Of course, we need motivation, of course, we need communication and collective work, but we also need to keep those resources. That's it. Thank you very much. I'm open for questions.
Hola Alejandro, ¿qué tal?
Hello, Alejandro. I have a question for you, which is, as you said, you have different plans for the different departments. So, is there a national plan for the whole company, or do you only make sure that all the different plans are followed? Okay, thank you, Juan, for that question. So what we have a general documents, and then we have plans for each location. So the strategy was to build some general documents so that all systems can adjust to it, to have a very similar format, to have general guidelines for all the different supply systems to follow, but it's key. But the role of local teams is key. We have the metropolitan area and we have the different departments. We have a lot of technicians present here today. And also we had some advantages because in some plants they had already implemented ISO standards before, and when we started learning about this, we started learning about ISO standards, HACS standards, and so the Secretariat tries to promote these courses, these training programs, and to make sure that we work with all the local teams so that all the information that is outcome is similar. Okay, so I have a question. Thank you for your presentation. So in Brazil, the biggest challenge that we have is raising awareness around technicians and directors. So is that a challenge here? Another thing is that back home, technicians have other jobs and they have no time to develop a plan. So what do they do? Yes, okay. I agree with what you say. What are our biggest challenge? Okay, so the biggest challenge is continuity in time. those are actions that are going to take a lot of time, a lot of administrations, so it's important to maintain them. And also what you said, and I saw Natalia nodding also, but when we have a problem, a crisis, the operational teams are responsible for this. So through a crisis or in a moment in which you, for instance, a summer period, you need more people working, and so there's an impact on this kind of plans, and that is a challenge by itself. So we also need to incorporate staff that can have this task and provide support throughout this. But it's important not only for this. I think that complementary staff is essential throughout every period, because when we need to solve certain things, we need to give priority to the problem, but the challenge is to be able to overcome those periods and continue working on the plan. Throughout the year, we can spend more or less time on the management of the plans, but never to neglect them or leave them behind. So continuity is a challenge, and resources during the administration are also a challenge. But I think we have a lot of shared challenges. Okay, so first of all, congratulations, Alejandro, for that presentation. But what I wanted to say is not a question, but just to add something. I'm a technical leader, and we have a lot of cooperational tasks, administrative tasks in water and sanitation, in water treatment plants, and also distribution networks. And in our case, our treatment plant is certified according to ISO standards, and of course the management of the water plants is very important, and to be able to comply with standards is also key, because if we do so, it's easy for others to follow. But first of all, I need to highlight that the majority of things are done by the staff, and they are very proud of their work during an audit process, and these are things that help a lot. And essentially for us, this is a tool to ask for resources to mitigate those risks that we do not want to face. It's very difficult every time we need to do a new one, but that was our experience.
Okay, thank you, Alejandro. And now we invite Soledad Martinez for a 5-minute poster presentation. And we invite everybody to join Soledad and Alejandro, that will be presenting afterwards at our session, our poster session, that it will be after lunch. So you can continue talking and exchanging with her, because we won't have questions after this. Soledad is a PhD student at the chemistry school at UDELAR, specializing in the study of the microbiome in secondary drinking water systems. Additionally, she's been working at the water analysis unit of the same school for the past 9 years. Okay. Thank you, Soledad.
Thank you for the presentation. Good morning, good afternoon, I don't know, everyone. I'm going to continue in Spanish, okay?
As I was saying yesterday, I don't know if anybody was present, but in the chemistry university, we're working on microbial characterization of secondary drinking water distribution systems. No, this is not my presentation for today. I'm sorry. Okay, I will continue telling you about this. But within the systems, we focused on the study of tanks, storage and distribution tanks of buildings, because we identified that the microbiology of the water changes once it goes from the distribution system to the secondary system. And today I'm going to be a study that we conducted, taking as a model the system of tanks of a university building, and this is the building where we are here today. We use the system of tanks of this building to study the development of biofilms, bacterial biofilms, during 1 year, because in Uruguay we recommend to clean these systems once a year. So we studied the characterization of biofilm and the water quality from a microbiological perspective throughout a year. And as I said yesterday, the only way to access the biofilms is to empty the tanks and take the samples from the walls. So this was a challenge because we needed to design tutors of the same material of the tank that were done in the same way as the tank is, and this study focused on cement tanks, and we worked together with the engineering university to design these coupons. We also used polyethylene coupons that is also used in different water tanks. And so what we did was to design these devices and hang them within the tank and to conduct periodic samples. We took samples of the water, and every 3 months we took some coupons and we analyzed the biofilm. So we were able to study throughout a year the study throughout a period of 3, 6, 9, and 12 months. So I don't have the presentation right now, but when we studied the microbiology of the water, we did a basic study of physical-chemical characteristics, and we observed that after the 9th month of the monitoring process, there were some microbiological incompliances, and this was associated to a decrease in the consumption of water and an increase of temperatures, because these months were summer months. So when we started looking at the water, there were no non-compliances at any point in time, and when we looked at the microbial communities, we extracted the DNA of all microorganisms, both in biofilm and in both types of the networks. What we identified was that there were 3 groups. They were divided in 3 groups. On the one hand, we had communities of the water throughout the whole year. Then we had a group that included tank water and the microbial community on earlier stages from 3 to 9 months. And in the end, we had another group which had very similar communities towards the end of the 12-month period. So we analyzed that the water, the sediment, and the microfilm were all very similar. So as a conclusion, we saw that some molecular tools could help us develop new monitoring strategies for these kind of infrastructures. And looking at yesterday's conclusion, we can start assessing the management of these infrastructures to propose shorter cleaning periods, for instance 6 months, or to try to implement a secondary disinfectant. And we need to analyze the quality of water, such as in different tanks, such as polyethylene tanks, that seem to be a bit better than those in cement tanks. So thank you for the possibility of being here, and thank you, everybody. And you can take a look at the poster.
Excellent presenting without the support, and everybody understood what you said, so congratulations. And now we invite Alejandro Dorado Alejandro is not here. We don't have Alejandro. Maybe he's downstairs. Yes. And you can show it. Okay. Alejandro was going to present water safety plans, an urgent need from Brazil. So, well, you will be able to meet him at the poster session after lunch. And we will have some more minutes for Soledad.
Bueno, si quieren les puedo...
Okay, so I can share an example of the devices that we created together with the Faculty of Engineering.
Hoy no me quiere la presentación.
Okay, so the presentation is a bit stubborn. Okay, there we go. So this is just a picture to show the tank system that we worked with throughout the study. This is located outside, behind this building. And what you see here is some of the devices that we designed. These are basically the cement ones and the polyethylene ones. And these are the coupons that were created here with materials of our faculty here, and we designed these structures. They had a size more or less like this. We hung them on the tanks, and we were able to look at the development of the biofilms, and we studied them every 3 months. We took out a coupon. We took samples. And what we did to put them in the tank was to hang them from the top. And we had a design that made it possible for us to hang them and insert them in the water. So every 3 months, we took the tops out, we took some of the coupons, we went to the lab, and we started analyzing them. And after, towards the end of the monitoring process, during the cleaning, we also took some samples of the sediment and the walls. There you can see an example of the samples we took. And finally, this is what I was saying. When we got the microbiological results, we saw an increase of the non-compliances after month 9. Also, we had a non-compliance here in month 6, but both of them are related to a decrease in the consumption of water, because here we start breaks, university breaks, and therefore there is less consumption of water. And also this is matched with high temperatures of summer. And this is also what I was saying of the 3 groups. When we compared all the microbacterian communities, we understand that there are 3 groups, the orange, blue, and green one. The orange is the network water. Here we have the blue one, which is the early stages of the formation of biofilms in the cement wall, and also the water from the tank. So the communities of the early stages of the first months, month 3 from 9 to 9, are very similar. At the 12th month, the system entered a kind of stability where all phases appeared: water from the tank, biofilm, and sediment. So what happened with our polyethylene coupons, which was one of the things we saw, is that only the biofilm formed was in this group, but from the 6-month point onwards, they also were part of this group. And so bacterial communities were more similar to the final system of the tank. And by final, I mean 1 year. And other things that I included here is that this is related to some indicators. And basically, that's what I wanted to share. And I invite you to come down to the poster session if you want to continue talking.